Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing something very different, something really special that I actually haven't seen anybody do on YouTube, or maybe that's just me who doesn't know where to look. But today we're actually going to go into the song that Nightwish just released called Harvest, and I thought that we could go through it and sort of analyze what's going on. So if you guys haven't watched the song or you're looking for a reaction video, I will actually leave my reaction in the cards up there, but this video is specifically for the people who are interested in like going a little bit more into details, because in that previous video I said that Harvest is very, very different from songs that Nightwish have recorded previously. And for that reason, I thought it would be really interesting to just go through the song and sort of try to analyze it a little bit more with the piano and a little bit more into details. I really don't know what's going to happen with this video, but I hope that is interesting for you guys and we can kind of discover more things about this song as we go through it together. I've never done that, so throughout the video, if you guys have ideas on like how I could do it in a way that you feel would be more interesting, or if you guys are like really liking something that I'm doing, it would be really valuable for me if you would leave a comment down below so I can sort of see if that's the kind of content you guys would be interested in seeing in the future and how I can adapt to something that you guys would be interested in. With that said, for the people who are new here, welcome. My name is Elvann. I am a recording artist, a singer, a harpist, and I actually record my own original music, both on this channel where I post covers, a lot of Nightwish covers, and I also have original music that I'm working on, and I've put one of those songs available to download for free. So if you are interested in like fantasy metal music, you will definitely enjoy my original song, so you can go and download it. It's going to be in the cards right there, and it's also going to be in the description box. All right, so without further ado, let's just start. So we're kind of gonna listen to the song and sort of like stop at various places and try to like find what are the chords and what is happening and why it sounds the way that it does. So let's first start with just listening to some part of the song, the beginning, and okay. So here we just have tribal percussions, so have that C on the bottom, like a drone.
My harvest will come, tiny valorous straw, among the millions facing to the sun.
Yeah, someone said that it was in C major, and that's actually right. If I play that chord right here, and I go back, I have the lyrics right there, so. My harvest will come, tiny various straws. So it's basically just a C chord and then a F chord, which is the 4th degree in C major, and then a C major chord. My harvest will come, tiny valorous straws. And then what was the second part of the phrase?
Straw among the millions facing to the sun.
I think that there's like that drone, that C, that stays in the bottom, actually. My harvest will come, tiny valorous straws, among the million facing of the sun. Something along these lines. So it's a very, up to this point, it's not, like in pop music, we often see like that repeated, well, it's still very common, but I mean, that drone part is not something that's particularly common in, sorry, it's a sustained note, I think in English, I'm not sure, but when you have that single note that's basically just being repeated despite the chord changing, it has a specific name. I think like it could be called pedal note, or it could be, like, I call it a drone in this case because it has that sort of texture that reminds me of like medieval sort of drones. They do that a lot in medieval music, or even like a bagpipe has that like drone thing going on all the time. So there's that kind of maybe vibe that reminds of like medieval music or kind of folk music a bit, having that sustained note that stays in the bottom. From there, like what I can say is that the harmony is pretty stable, like it doesn't change a lot. We often see like, you know, those chord progressions, especially in Nightwish, there's not a lot of like going back and forth. That's not true. Like actually Sleeping Sun has like, it's like basically just 2 chords and then we change. But yeah, so we have that very stable chord progression here. So let's just move on.
I will pause before a man whose path has just begun. Something unsung awaken.
Something unsung awaken. Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. So here we have that melody and it's really interesting. Because we are borrowing from another key. So in C major, we have only, we play only the white keys. But like all of a sudden we have a da 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 da. We have that chord here, I think. It's either this or this. Let's see which one it is, and I can tell you more from there.
Begun. Something unsung awaken.
Okay, it's just, I think it's just, it's just a note. The harmony doesn't follow, but I think later in the song, the chord changes and we have that happening. But yeah, so basically we have a B flat there, which does not belong to the chord. So this can be borrowed, and what I would assume it's borrowed from is F major, because F major has, I think it's Lydian. Yeah, okay, no, sorry, it's Mixolydian. Yeah, right, it's Mixolydian. So basically, in this part, we are borrowing, the B flat is borrowing from the Mixolydian mode, which is the 5th degree mode, because we are in C, but we are in fact having the same notes as if we were in F. Basically, we are borrowing that chord from another key, and it gives that very spicy flavor because we are not really used to hearing modes when we listen to radio music or that type of music that is more mainstream. It's really rare that we're gonna go out of either major or minor. Let's keep going.
The quaternary code gave mankind a rose so we could see the beautiful light.
Same thing here.
Strange piece of stone hovers over crops, and a child's face aglow before the sight.
We don't have it here. See, da 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 da. Yeah. So the first time da da, and then the second time we just go to D. So we don't have the same color from the beginning of the paragraph when we have, yeah. So the first part of the verse is basically using that like color, and then the second time we don't use it, which creates a lot of variety actually, which is really interesting to me.
Before the side, join the harvest of 100 fields, hearty and tame.
Join the da da. Join the da 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 da. Okay, what is it? So maybe it's a bit low. Yeah, I think that's it. So it's like C, we start with A, C, F, C. F and C in relationship to each other are actually a very weak combination because it doesn't follow the expected order of chords. I could go more into details about that if you guys are interested in, but for the sake of keeping it as digestible as possible for you. It's just an uncommon, it's not following the expected, chord progression, which makes it sort of sound like maybe more Celtic or more medieval, because it's like in the opposite order. Usually we will want to go from C to F, and now we're going and we're kind of ending with like a plagal, basically. That's what we call plagal cadenza. So it's an ending that has a very modal, I'm going to use that word again, modal feel to it, and it sounds very kind of unfinished or not completely satisfying. We would expect at the end of the phrase to have something like 5-1. So in this case, it would be G major and then, that sounds very satisfying. But then if I play this instead, it doesn't sound as satisfying for the end of a phrase. And Nightwish usually uses a lot of this, or even like they will have those sort of endings of phrases. So 7-1 or, but they don't, or like that 5. They will have a lot of those, but this is relatively uncommon. I don't think I've seen a lot of this. It's pretty, like I'm not saying that it's not pretty, it's just very unexpected. Join the harvest of hundreds field, hardy and tame, all going back to one single grain. Oh, here we have a cadenza that's a little bit more common, is going from 4 to 5. So going from F major to G major is a little bit more common. So we have that A minor. Join the harvest of hundred field, hearty and dame. We would expect the phrase to kind of have that pause here, but we have that, I'll say quote, like quotation mark, weird cadenza here. And then we have all going back to one single grain. And then we have something that feels a little bit more expected, I guess. So we're kind of like, what is happening in this phrase? And then at the end we have that turning point, which brings us to that 5 degree that we're like, okay, we know where we are. Let's keep going, actually.
One single grain, offer light to the coming day, inspire a child, water the field, surrender to the earth.
Oh, interesting. That's where they changed to minor. Water the field, surrender to the earth. Is it a major chord at the end? I'm not sure. Wait.
Water the
B minor.
surrender to the earth.
Oh, it's A. I'm actually gonna write it down. Okay, interesting. So we are basically modulating, I feel, from C major to what would be A minor. And they are basically very, very similar key. They share the same note, but what makes those two keys different is the pivot point, is where you start and where you come back to. So the chords on which we land, and there's like a general feeling that like they can kind of be blended together, and it's something that Nightwish I think does a lot, but they usually go from a minor key and then they borrow to the major key and then they stay there maybe for a really short period of time. But here we have the opposite, where we start from that key here, and then all of a sudden we have we modulate into that A minor, so we feel like we arrive home in the music more on that E minor chord. So water the field, surrender to the earth, water the field, surrender to the earth. So that A minor chord here is where we feel like we're landing, and that's what gives that more kind of sad feeling, basically. All right, so let's keep going.
Water the field, surrender to the earth.
Oh, here, okay. So we have, we end on a different chord here, which makes it very rich, actually. Let's listen just that whole part again, because I want to see how much.
Child, water the field,
Okay, so one time.
to the earth.
A minor.
Water
E minor.
the field, surrender to the earth.
A minor.
Water the field, surrender to the earth.
I think it's C major, but let's see. Yeah, Okay, so the last time, basically, I'm gonna write it down for myself, is we end on C. So we go back to the C key by doing that. We're kind of breaking the expectation that we just created, and we're going back to that C major key, which sounds a lot happier, with air quotes. So, water to feel surrender to the earth. Water to feel surrender to the earth. Water to feel surrender to the earth. So it creates that break of expectation here by using a different chord. We're expecting the A minor again, but that's not what happens here, which I think is actually really brilliant, if you want my opinion. Let's keep going.
They have beauty beyond the poetry, but choose a silent mystery.
Oh, I love this. Okay, that's my favorite part, I think. This, they reuse the same melody as basically we had in the verse, but there's like that small alteration, and I think that's the recurring theme here, is they use like small chord alterations a bit everywhere in the song, or like some small melody changes that make it so it sounds really rich and new every single time you hear it. And I have a screaming bird, sorry for that. That's the melody here. It's not this. I'm not sure here. I'll need to listen again.
Beyond the poetry, but choose a silent.
Silent melody, silent melody. Maybe that's.
They have beauty beyond the poetry, but choose a silent misery.
Yeah.
The deep
It's a. Okay, I'll write it down for myself. Okay, so instead of going, because in the beginning we had that C major chord, and then we would go. So we haven't changed the melody, but we're changing the chord underneath, and it gives a very different feeling. So instead of, yeah, I'll play this one again just for you to hear carefully the difference. But we have that major chord here. But then on this second verse, we go from I think that's what I hear from the song, which is very colorful, don't you think? And this chord is basically borrowed again from, I think, what would be Mixolydian. We have that note again that shows up in the chord, which is our B flat. And it creates that really beautiful color between the chords. It's very unexpected. Because if I play the same chord, but I stayed in, oh, it's 5 minor. It's 5 minor. There's no single way to analyze things, by the way, so if you have a different interpretation of the chords and what they mean or where they're from, there's no one single answer. The idea is just to kind of get yourself an idea or a sort of deeper understanding of what it could be, but don't take my word for like, this is the only way to see this. Classical musicians see things in a very different perspective as jazz musicians, for instance, and I come from a classical background, so people from jazz that actually play a lot more with modes might be able to come up with a much better understanding of the music that's going on here, but for the sake of just getting to know the song better, it doesn't really matter whether it's like super accurate or not. But the idea is just that here we're borrowing a chord again, and it has a very minor flavor because we're using that G minor chord right after playing a C major chord, and it has that really beautiful sound instead of the first time we used this. And then we use this, which gives a lot of like nostalgia kind of feeling, or I don't know how you would call it, how it makes you feel, that chord progression, but for me it's very kind of nostalgic, and like the fact that we're in major, it feels like the minor chords are very contrasting. They sound really different. So let's listen to it again from this part here, the beginning of the paragraph.
They have beauty beyond the
C major.
poetry, but choose a silent misery.
C.
The deeper the sea, the less remains.
The deeper the sea, the less remains. I think that's the same here.
They'll find the pretty words and tame flocks to herd. There's that sort of carousal of dare. Join the
I think here it's the same thing basically, but something that Nightwish does a lot actually is they will have a longer verse in the beginning. They will have like twice the length, or we can call it like 2 verses. Let's call them 2 verses. So they have like 2 of them, and then they have the chorus, or something happens in the middle, or there's like other stuff going on, and then when they come back to the verse, they will have it like halved, separated into shorter. Half shorter. So yeah, it will be a lot shorter, and I think it's a very, very efficient way to kind of bring back something that we already know without like boring us with it. And even more so here, they changed that chord to a beautiful switch of chord that I really like. So and then they go back into the chorus. Let's listen to it once. There might not be a lot to say about it because it might be the same as the beginning, but
harvest of 100 fields, hearty and tame, all going back to one single grain. Offer light to the coming day, inspire a child, water the fields, surrender to the earth. Water the fields, surrender to the earth.
Yeah, it's very similar. I think it's pretty similar. Like, I might be skipping over, like, I think there was maybe one difference, but nothing that came to me like that different. Well, so I've just spent like 15 minutes or something just trying to find what are the chords there. And I might actually end up spending more time just for the sake of, like, I'd like to find them. But like, for the sake of this video, let's just move on and yeah. Alright, so this is the second chorus. And then the C major. Yeah. They really like... Yeah, they have that... They have something like that happening. That's very Nightwish. Yeah, it sounds a little bit like Last of the Wilds, actually. That thing. It's in the same key. I think so. Modulation. I think. Maybe not. Yeah. They're now in E. Yeah. Okay, they did modulate here. They went from... What I would say would be A minor, basically, because they kept, in the beginning, they kept, like, changing between C major and, like, borrowing from F major and going to A minor. So there's a lot of, like, back and forth between all of those. But then, like, all of a sudden, they just, like, they completely go and modulate. And Nightwish does that a lot, and one of those examples is Nemo. Nemo, my name forevermore. And they go there, I think. I don't remember exactly where, sorry for that. But yeah, so they do something similar where they just shift all at once, and that's what is happening here, and that's why it sounds so much dramatic, because I think they're doing it like going down from A minor to this key. So let's just listen again. Yeah, modulation. E minor being a very common key in rock and metal and pop also. That's the same idea of melody, but the melody here, by the way, is completely different. It's not the same notes at all. You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of Arion. If you guys know Arion, this makes me think of them. I don't know what you think, but yeah, it's so like their style. With like the harmonies and stuff, and the effect is very Arion, but yeah. So we're back to join the harvest with our A minor chord. So like in the chorus it looks like we would be in A minor, but it's kind of ambiguous, let's say, if it's in C or in A minor, but so we're in here again in minor. That sounds very minor. Yeah. All right, okay. There's a ton of stuff in this, and some of the stuff repeats, so it's not necessary for me to go into details. Also, I will skip the like analyzing properly all the melodies of the solo because there's just too much stuff. But I think like the most interesting parts in the harmony and what makes it so different from what we know from Nightwish is the instrument choices. But I think that the harmony is also very different because they decided to go for something. I'll put that in quotes because it's not necessarily positive or negative, but it's a lot more rich. There's a lot more variations than we are used to in Nightwish, and they went for that like more minor, they went for more major, like so happier keys, but then they kind of switch between one and the other. Usually what happens is they will have a chorus or a verse. Let's pick a verse, and they will copy and paste the same chords, which is not a bad thing, by the way. Like, it's not necessarily, in my opinion, better or worse whether someone decides to use always the same chords or not. I think that it's interesting, but it's not like a necessity to have good music. So it doesn't mean anything about music that does not do that, okay? But they decided to like change a chord here and there, which like makes it very interesting to listen to because they don't just repeat the same thing over and over, which is what we would be expecting normally. So that's why this song is also feeling very surprising, I think, for a lot of us. We listen to it and we're like, oh, I didn't hear this. Or like you need to listen to it a couple times before you actually get used to it, because otherwise it might feel like, for someone who is not used to listening to, like, for instance, classical music, which has a lot of those changes all the time. Classical music is all over the place. But, like, we are used to music that has more repetitive elements, and Nightwish decided to break some of those expectations in this song, not only on the arrangement and singer choice part and all the other stuff that I didn't, like, fully talk about in this video, but because we mostly focused on the harmonies and the chords, because I think that's what makes this song so unique, and that's why I decided to focus on that. But yeah, so that was a lot of stuff to talk about in one video, and I hope like any of this becomes sort of holds itself together when I actually edit and post that video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed watching it, and if you want me to do more videos of this kind, and maybe even if you have specific song ideas that you would like me to analyze in this way, like with the piano and sort of going through them, I would be really happy to hear your suggestions, because I've never done a video like this one. It's like a first, and I don't know. If you guys liked it, make sure to leave me a thumbs up, leave me a comment so I know that it's something that you guys are interested in. Also, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I post a ton of reaction videos, I post covers. I'm a huge Nightwish fan, and if you enjoy Nightwish too, like, I'm definitely the channel to follow, because yeah. Anyways, thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I see you in the next one. Bye!